Welcome back to Casting with Keith, where we throw out some questions and reel in some answers. Thanks for coming back, Keith.
It's great to be with you, Aaron.
So one of the reasons that we have this podcast is to educate the stakeholders here at Lubbock-Cooper. And something that we hear a lot of questions about is what are vouchers? So can we address what vouchers are?
You bet. So vouchers basically are using public funds to fund a private school education. They come in many forms. The one that is being tossed about now in the legislature really is education savings accounts. And while opportunities exist for the government to fund public schools and hold us accountable and make us transparent, when you use education savings accounts or a voucher to fund a private school education, there is no follow-up of accountability and there's no follow-through with transparency. There's no requirement for it. So really, it kind of creates an unlevel playing field. And the thing about a voucher or an education savings account is that the entity that receives it, as the way it's being proposed right now, is under no federal scrutiny, no state scrutiny. It's just a free-for-all with the money that's given to them. School districts like Lubbock-Cooper educate 90% of tomorrow's workforce. And we believe in accountability. We're not against accountability, but I truly believe that if a voucher was going to take place, then wherever the money goes, that school should be accountable as well.
So that main word is that accountability.
It really is. Accountability in public schools comes through standardized testing. It comes through financial reporting. It comes through a board of trustees that are elected by the public who hold administrators, teachers accountable for the jobs we're supposed to do. And that doesn't exist in a voucher world. How can you give government money, taxpayer money that we all pay, to a private entity and not hold them accountable for anything that's done with it?
So where did vouchers even get started? How did they come about?
So the inception of vouchers really came about after the 1955 Brown versus Board of Education, where schools were desegregated. And in southern states where people did not want desegregation to happen, they came up with this scheme to allow students to go to school with kids of their own race by using state dollars to fund a private education. That's the inception. So really, vouchers are rooted in segregation. They're not rooted in desegregation, and that bothers me as well.
Absolutely. And so you kind of mentioned this a little bit, but how will this directly impact public education?
Well, what's happening right now is that the governor is holding public education funding and a teacher salary increase hostage until he gets his voucher plan passed. What's disturbing about that is there's $500 million set aside for this voucher program, this education savings account program, that otherwise could be used for public education. And you can't mix the two. And so the governor has said once his voucher plan passes, then he will put on the call the ability for the legislature to increase teacher salaries and increase school funding. And I just don't like being held hostage. I think that's very disingenuous to the teachers who are the most important employees in our district and to schools around the state that need the funding based on all the inflationary pressures we're feeling.
So we've heard vouchers kind of come up in the past, but you're saying that this is something that is in the legislature right now. This is happening at the moment.
It is. It's being discussed currently. The legislature ended their regular session back in May without a voucher plan being passed. The governor has called them back for multiple special sessions. They just began last week with special session number 3, and the governor again has said the main part of the call for the legislatures going back is to get a voucher or an education savings account legislation passed by both chambers, and he will sign it into law if that occurs.
So as you know, Lubbock is far from everybody. So here in Lubbock, what is something that we, the public, could do to help handle this?
Well, I think it's important if you're concerned about this issue, if you have a concern about public taxpayer dollars going to support a private school education with no accountability, no transparency, that you reach out to your state legislators, a state senator or your representative, not at the federal level, but the state level. They're the ones considering this. And it's vitally important because your values may not align with the values another school espouses, and they would still be able to receive these state dollars with no accountability and transparency. So it's important that if you're really concerned about this and concerned about the future of public education in Texas, that you reach out to your elected officials and let your concerns be known.
Well, Keith, I appreciate you kind of shedding some light on the vouchers, and I appreciate you being here again, sir.
It's always a pleasure, Aaron. Thanks for having me.
Yes, sir.